I want to welcome you to today's online multiplier event that should have been hosted originally at Graz University of Technology, literally on the last day of this project. With today, we are closing the ECEPE project, the electric powertrain engineering project that is dealing with the generation of training materials for electric powertrain engineers and for training of students and also for young engineers on site in your places. This event should have been taken place face to face, but since it's not, will be recorded so that you have also the chance to see it later on also, and most of all, transfer the information and have a clue about this project and what was the focus in this project here. Yeah, to kick it off a little bit, I was searching for very recent numbers and convincing argumentations of why we are using electric powertrain, why it is good to have electric powertrain engineers, and why it will be the bright future. So on the first hand, if you see on this slide, just a screenshot or a copy from the homepage from ECEA, from the European Automotive Association, we see that the numbers of electric powertrains is quite okay. It's not yet there where we wanted it to be, where we thought it might be in 2020 or 2022. But we see it's becoming more interesting also in the different fields of the vehicles that we are developing. So not only for passenger cars, but also for trucks, for buses, for vans. We see that there is a increasing amount of electric propelled vehicles that is coming up towards us. More and more that the information or this trend that many engineers grew up in a mechanical world and have now to change for this IT, information communication technology related and electrical engineering related studies. We also see that include more and more components in the powertrain. So what has been previously done only by an internal combustion engine is now propelled by a combustion engine plus an additional electric motor plus some batteries plus the inverters, plus the hybrid control units that's making it perfect in terms of energy consumption or optimization in terms of fuel consumption. And what we also see and what we also hear more frequently in the recent time is also mindset changes, so that we have to adapt more to different approaches that are upcoming in this domain. So when we see a bit more in terms of outlook figures, also 2040 is also here mentioned. And also when we see a bit more into the future, we see a prosperous approach for the electric vehicles and for electric propelled vehicles in general. And we see also more or less a trend to upcoming possibilities. There will be a huge number of electric vehicles in 2030. So also with 140 million vehicles, or even an even higher trend that also already for 2030, 30% of all vehicles should be electrical propelled. These are progressions into the future. What we can see also that especially the European Union is investing a lot of resources, a lot of money also into the electric vehicles and into the development of electric powertrains. And if we see like this, and if we recall the numbers beforehand, about 5%, we see that this is a huge step that will be upcoming. And this huge step is approximated for less than 10 years. We will see that also the upskilling, the reskilling, and takeover of new information and of new skills from our engineers will be required. And this will be even more propelled in the next years. To have this in a short manner and to give you also the key insights beforehand, I was going for this value proposition. We are having the intention to give these trainings out to our students and also for industry corporations that we have. The idea was what additional value can be provided. So when we see on your side, focusing from the right to the left, what are their, I would say, jobs, or what are their needs from your side, from your perspective, that you will have in the upcoming years? On one hand, skilled employees, nothing really new, but something which is becoming more and more drastical. Inter-domain experts, since we see a lot of interconnection, a lot of alignments between the different domains. So inter-domain expertise will be more required than ever before. And good job applicants. So if you are going to hire new people, you want to have good ones. So this is also something which I guess is of high interest from your side. On the other hand, what is from your side maybe a bit a challenge, a pain, as it is stated here in this document? Probably not having the right training, so the appropriate training, especially for your employees. Maybe having limited resources for the upskilling of your employees. So even if you have established a training program, resource per definition is always something that is limited. Or then the other thing would be in terms of interdomain expertise and experts. As we mentioned, this is something which is more and more important in the future, but maybe that is the scarce resource that you have in your departments or in your companies. And then also, which could be sometimes a bit a hampering factor, is you want to have your internal experts as a trainer also. But your experts, your highly skilled persons, they should be also working in the customer projects for the day-to-day business. So having this as an additional workload might be sometimes a bit challenging and might also be reducing the commitment of the experts that you have. On the positive side, this interdomain expertise might be a unique selling point. So it might be one. On the other hand, it might be also the indicator that you need or the stop that you have. Otherwise, you will be out of business. State-of-the-art competences, skills, knowledge, expertises, these are very frequently changing, and its procrastination is also that it will become more and more faster that this will develop over the time. The onboarding of new applicants, as I mentioned before, if you have a fast onboarding approach, this will be definitely something that is beneficial for you. And then we have this breaking down of the silos, which is something which becomes over the last decade a very crucial point and is ever increasing in criticality in this context, so that you break down the silos, that you have the experts of the different domains interacting with each other and also supporting their work that they have. When we now see our training and our outcomes of our project that we are proposing, we have on the most left side what we have done in this 1-year project, what we have developed, and our support would also be how we can relieve some of these pains, some of these hampering stones. The training that we developed is a modular one. We came up with a very modular training, also in terms of granularity of the individual modules that can be very easily adapted towards the needs that you have. If you're coming from a semiconductor industry, you might have different training needs than if you come from a classical powertrain engineering company, or if you come from an embedded system development company. Here also the granularity of the individual modules is something that is adaptable. In terms of certification, so it's always good to have a certifying body, so some quality measure in the back that gives you indication on how well the trainers and the trainees perform, how well the training is established, and also which help in terms of finding good applicants for the jobs. This course has been designed as a university course for master students level, but also with the option and with the possibility to integrate it in your vocational educational training program, in your LearnLands, in your upskilling program, however you call this. Here also the integration has been already envisioned from the beginning on. In terms of gain creators that the training might be able to support you with, is in terms of cross-domain experts have developed these training materials. So we have cross-domain that is of interest for an electric powertrain engineering approach, but also the cross-domain experts from the different universities have supported the development of these training materials. As we said, industrial relevance is something which was envisioned from the first beginning onwards. So it's not only a pure didactic training giving you the information and you are receiving this information, but also on the other hand, having some practical examples, having some hands-on examples, and having also the possibility to include your specific examples that you have on hand. Cross-domain competences, something which we have there to not only train mechanical engineers or only electrical engineers, but also production engineers, mechanical engineers, electric engineers, software engineers. So always here the focus on providing the different cross-domain competences also for the other engineering domains. How we could do this or how we did this was due to our partnership, as I mentioned, expertises from different professors from different universities, expertises also from industry colleagues that we have included in this project. And with these specific expertises, if someone is an expert electric powertrains or in battery systems, then this partner has developed the battery system training. If someone was an expert in the electric motor systems, then the training material was developed by this partner. With this cool partnership here, we also had the possibility to include the ABC language support, something which I came up with for this special presentation here. So basically, when you can see the companies or the supporters, the partners from the different countries supported also their mother tongue, which is nicely represented by the letters A, B, C, D, and E. We have the Austrian higher level language that we can provide. We have Bulgarian language, we have Czech language, German language also, and clear, the English language for our training support. I mentioned also certification support. So this is another fine thing that we had established from the very beginning onwards is also some automotive industry relevant certification. Here highlighting the Euro SBI community. That is on one hand also an international conference community, Euro SBI conference that is on an annual basis related to different domains, to Industry 4.0 approaches, software system improvements, developments, but also extended recently to the Euro SBI Academy, which includes our training materials and which is a broader training academy establishment that we have focusing on the training of master students, but also focusing on the training of industry experts, engineers that you have on the hand. And on the other side, also the certification agency, this skill and exam portal, which is guaranteeing an adequate quality level of the trainings, an adequate comparison level so that you can also compare if the training is hosted by the Austrian partner or if the training is hosted by the German partner or Bulgarian partner, that you get the same expertise, you get the same experience, and you have the same level of training. Also, we had a scientific study that we enrolled so that we are checking to meet the needs of our customer, the customer demands. This is something which we conducted at the very beginning of the project phase to check what additional kind of trainings are requested from your side and how can we manage these, how can we bring up these trainings and support the training activities. The focus is set on the cross-domain. So I mentioned cross-domain several times. We're talking about electric powertrain engineers and the training of these. Here is just a representative depiction of electric vehicle, just to showcase we are not only focusing on the embedded systems, on the electronics, but also on the mechanics, as you can see in these grayish boxes, also the basics of the mechanical systems that needs to be known for the individual engineers, as well as the basics of the electronic components, electric motor concepts, energy storage concepts, battery system concepts, and also the embedded automotive systems, which are in the blue boxes, should be something which we are focusing on. Different domain expertise that we are taking into consideration to see the combined nature of this system, the mutual influences that these have, and also to transfer knowledges that are required for software engineers, as an example, also to the electronic guys, also to the mechanical guys. So that a bit of an understanding how these different concepts have synergies and map into each other. So this is the intention that we have also with our course. I mentioned the course several times, but I didn't tell you a lot about the course itself so far. Electric powertrain engineering might mean a lot. I mentioned that it's modular, and we have modularized these concepts into these 5 units that we have here. So an introductory unit, a system engineering unit, a propulsion system unit, an energy storage system unit, and a life cycle management. Each of these units has different focus elements depending on what your needs are, what you're supporting, what you need for the training of your engineers, considered in more details or in less details, more on an abstract level, or very specific, very detailed in one of the focus areas. This is due to the fact that multiple companies are involved in the powertrain engineering stuff, multiple hierarchy or supply chain levels need to be considered. So which might be of very high importance for a semiconductor supplier, that detailed knowledge might not be requested for the powertrain integrator, as an example. But on the other hand, seeing the different focus elements, the different expertise levels, opens up the opportunity to also get in touch and discuss these specific parts. What I just want to quickly highlight, I don't want to drag you into too much information, is just to quickly highlight some key points of the individual units. The whole training will be more than 40 hours, so more than 1 week of training is definitely something feasible. The question is also, depending on the detail levels that you want to go into and depending on the training experiments, even a bit longer than a week could be envisioned. This is something which we can envision for training of master students, as an example, to have them properly skilled before they are leaving the universities and coming into the companies. But we can also shrink these modules down towards the needs that you have for your training materials. First, introduction. Clearly something which is of interest, which could be a combination, which could be easy starting point, which focuses on these 5 key points in this relation, some motivation and challenges. So also seeing in terms of the broader scope, in terms of rare materials that we have for electric powertrains, seeing also the environmental impact that larger facilities have. So also seeing here the broader picture, not only seeing the electric vehicle as such, but also seeing the whole ecosystem that is involved with the production, with the development of the electric vehicle. Then we come to production life cycle, production homologation and standards. So here, not only focusing on the classical V model, but also the whole picture. They're seeing also the end of lifetime, also how to deal with waste materials, how to give the batteries a second life, how to get in this development also further in terms of the product life cycle. So see here the overall picture. And then also in terms of powertrain architectures and embedded automotive systems, to have there a first overview in terms of the different concepts that are available. What are the differences between the full electric vehicle versus some hybrid concepts, which concept would also be the most beneficial, and when to consider which specifics of the individual concepts. Then brings us to our second unit. So unit 2, the system engineering approach, where we are mainly focusing on function-based development. The consideration of functions, not individual components, not individual engineering domains. I'm just doing the gearbox, just the mechanical development, but also seeing the implications that it have, the synergies that we have when we are developing gearboxes, that there are mechanical parts involved, there are electronic parts involved, there are software parts involved. Also seeing this broader scope, that there is on one hand the technical architecture, but on the other hand, what we are more focusing the function architecture, or when we go more recent terms of service development and different services that we are offering with our developed systems. Especially, we want to see it also in the concept of functional safety and of cybersecurity. These are 2 separate viewpoints that are very interesting from my perspective, since my research group is focusing on functional safety and cybersecurity topics. We brought in these 2 viewpoints and also giving here a kind of an introduction to see how these viewpoints are mutually working against each other or with each other, depending on how we do it, and also seeing there again this functional view that is separated or that is not necessarily linked directly to the technical implementation. The third unit is one of the larger ones, so which is dealing with propulsion systems. But as I mentioned here, the key points: electric motors, electronic inverters, control units, motor control units, hybrid control units, energy transformation systems, and also transmission systems. And also in this unit, maybe here it's a good depiction. We start with basic concepts, basic knowledge on how such an electric motor works. See the architectural approaches also. So see what are components of the powertrain architecture that are new. Where are these components located? What are the implications? And also seeing different concepts of energy transformation. so kinetic energy recovery systems, to see also different types of energy transformation systems that we could have. And the same for the mechanics. I also mentioned mechanical engineering a lot, also here for software guys like me, or maybe as an example. It's also of importance and of interest to see and to know how such a planetary gearbox works in comparison to conventional gearboxes, and know the basic concepts, know the insights, and to be also able to control it appropriately. And the last picture that I gave here in this slide is also to showcase a bit in the perspective what we mean with also hands-on experience. Especially in Unit 3, we're having a lot of test beds, a lot of engineering samples where we can also have hands-on. So here, starting with the electric motor and its control, we see the fundamental concepts, we see the fundamental actuation of the electronics, and we can also have the hands-on experience here in this environment that we have with our trainings to see also Huck and Clark transformation as an example. See how these rotary systems are transformed into stationary systems, into the appropriate PDM approach, PDM control of the IGBTs that we have, so that we properly control the torque and the speed of electric motor, and see also with a hands-on experience, very down to the software, also how we can have their miscalculations, how we can have their minor effects that can sometimes a bit stop the nice flow of information. Is dealing with energy storage systems. And here also to be mentioned, on one hand, battery systems, but on the other hand, also other approaches, fuel cell systems, capacitors. Here also having the basic concepts explained on what is the speciality of the different battery chemistries that we're going further into the details of the architecture, how are HV batteries or electric vehicle batteries, how are they composed from individual cells? How is the composition done? What is a module? What is a cell? How are these batteries electrically controlled? How are they supported with software? What kind of approaches do we need to take into consideration for that side? And also taking a look onto alternative systems that we might have. So here, taking a look into fuel systems, fuel cells, how these are working from the concepts there. What are the specifics when we are considering fuel cells, different kinds of fuel cells, and also taking into consideration in terms of electric control systems, how do we have to deal with them? What are the specifics? What are specialities of these systems? And the fifth and last unit is dealing with lifecycle management, or as I mentioned, where we're talking about the product lifecycle on one hand. So we're taking also into consideration the total cost of ownership approaches. So here saying also in terms of how does the price tag effectively represent the costs that are involved here in this relation, also different types of management of lifecycle approaches also taken into consideration, and also different business models that can come up with that. So with the mobility as a service approach, maybe different business models, different business players are also available. And to have here the business understanding, to know the business logic behind, and see all the factors that can contribute to having more investments or less investments, maybe in services or in the product, and seeing how the services provides the business, provides the opportunities that we have, versus how product gives you the opportunity for going for further businesses. With these 5 modules, we can give you a good training that can go into individual needs, give you a good detailed knowledge about the powertrain engineering, and enhance your knowledge in terms of the missing approaches, which are not fully the focus point so far from your development, so that you can come into the new evolving value chains and become also a predominant player. So the last slide, just as an overview. For more information, there's always the project homepage with project-ecepe.eu, where you can find some information. We learned that project homepages for good projects don't last too long. So there's also the reason why I want to refer you to the left side, to this Euro SBI community, where you can find then the qualification and Certification Association, where you can find also the training materials. On the right side, you can get in touch with me, find some contacts on how to get in touch with me. And just as a few key takeaways, so what ECEPE, what the electric powertrain engineering training that we developed stands for, training of cross-domain competences. It's a very modular training that we have developed here. It is adaptive, not only on the modular level, but also in terms of the granularity of the details that you want to go into. So maybe having more details on the battery, less details on the electric, or vice versa. That is one thing in these terms. And also what is a very crucial benefit is certification that we mentioned here. So the interlinking to certification agency, certification not only of the training itself, but also of the trainers, of our experts that we are using for the trainings, the tight integration into university curricula, but also having on hand also the option for vocational educational training programs. So for your integration into your training programs, and also, which is a key highlight, that the individual trainings have been developed not only with expert, but by experts from the individual domains. And we are also had taken into consideration your specific needs, your specific wishes that you had for such a training. You're already to establishing these training materials. Yeah, with that, I'm through my slides. I would say thank you for the participation. This is about where we stop for the recording for the later view.